Yo, guys, this is Adrian Yanez telling you to use those handles. Hit, click, like, and subscribe. Fuck yeah, dudes. If y'all don't do it, man, fucking catch the hands, bro.
Hello, Fightway friends. Today we sit down with Justin Houghton, J Hop, Coach. Thank you for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I know you've been through flights and all of that today, helping to prepare for UFC 278. Thank you for joining us tonight, Coach.
It's an honor. I appreciate you guys having me.
No, it's an honor sitting in front of you. I know you have a lot of fighters under your belt, right? But what separates a good fighter from a good coach? Because you've been on both sides of the coin. Can you tell us what separates a good fighter from a good coach?
Man, I think that's a really good question. I think that yeah, there's a lot of coaches that maybe weren't the best athletes that are producing very good talent. I think it's just about the hours spent and the time spent on your craft. I don't think that this is a sport that you can really um, get away with not knowing much about and do super well. I think that you'll be exposed pretty quickly because we're playing with a game of split seconds and fractions of inches, and if you're outside of that on the bad end or even on the good end, right? Like it could be a game changer. So I think that um, I would say that what separates the coaches and whether they were an athlete or not. I because I was an athlete, also I think that that gives me a huge advantage. Just knowing how I trained some of the things I had success with and some of the things that didn't work out that I may have wasted time. Ways of conditioning your shins and making sure people are putting their bag work in, just little things that I was able to experience. And I think is great that I can pass on. So I do think that I have a pretty good edge over somebody that may not have had as much experience. But there's so many good coaches out there that put equal amount of time into their craft and can teach well. And I don't think necessarily your success is always off of your career as an athlete for sure in this game.
Interesting. Um, I see I see a lot of coaches, like top level coaches out there, and a lot of them so successful, know what they're doing, and their appetite in the fight game is off the charts. But what's the hardest part of coaching in MMA and not having to be in there, but just lay off instructions and just hope your fighters like how hard is that?
It's very difficult. I think that making sure that your athlete isn't just able to perform the duties from a physical manner, but developing their fight IQ is equally as important. So fight IQ is super important with me and my athletes because we have somewhat of a system. And from being on the outside, I'm able to see a lot more that you might not necessarily be able to see in there because you're having to work on defending yourself while you're in there and staying alert. So it's tough. It's tough when you see things and you can't just blatantly say throw the cross, or whatever the strike might be that you're seeing what's happening, and you only get 1 minute between rounds to work with your athlete. So it's so hard to convey all these minute details that we see throughout the rounds. But I think the most difficult thing is just seeing things and knowing that I believe that what I'm calling is going to work, and then. But it's also a great feeling when things do come to fruition with the techniques landing and having success. So
Fantastic. I mean, the second part to that question, you've got under your belt, you know, and in your gym as well. On, I mean, people like Raquel Pennington, people like Miranda Maverick. You just also helped Mohammed the Moto Usman to win the Ultimate Fighter. And sitting among all the great, I mean, the great people as we see on your Instagram, people like Rashad Evans and stuff. How do you carry the weight of the success? And because obviously you have all these different fighters that want different things from you. How do you compartmentalize all these different needs that these fighters need, and you still have to deliver?
It is pretty difficult. I think that it makes me feel good that people see that, I do have somewhat of a system, but I work with some people who are really good wrestlers and haven't wrestled. I work with some people who have a crazy taekwondo kicking background and are just strictly boxers. So, trying to get the most out of each athlete is definitely something that's very, very difficult to do. But it goes back to the coaching question, just putting time into your craft. If I have a new athlete that I hadn't worked with, that has newly joined the team, I go back and watch a lot of footage and see the strengths that we can build off of, and then obviously start working towards improving whatever weakness they have. So it is difficult, and then the gap, because I do work with some female athletes as opposed to the male athletes. Everything is pretty much the same, except for the weight cut could be a little bit different on the female side of things and stuff like that. But um, yeah, I'm very privileged to have the athletes that I work with right now. So appreciate it.
Yeah, fantastic. I mean, you just mentioned something that really caught my ear, which is watching films. There's some fighters that don't like to watch films, and they just let out their coaches just you know get the job done. They go and watch the coaches. I mean, the film. And there's some fighters that actually do want to see what happened in the film to kind of know how to avoid it next time. How do you balance that with some of the fighters you got?
I mean, it's a requirement. It's that simple. It's a requirement. I know a lot of people don't like to watch when they don't have a good performance with their personal tape. So like, I don't want to have to relive moments for the athletes and have any kind of negativity. But if you're in this sport and you're not watching film, that is a piece of the puzzle. And I think that it's not if, it's when it's going to show that you didn't, because people do have patterns. Of course, people do evolve between fight camps, so you don't know really how much improvement each fighter has made from camp to camp. So you can't
Mm,
just base everything on watching film. But you absolutely, like everybody that I work with, we watch film together separately, and a lot of the coaches, because I work with different coaches, will have group chats where we talk about things and send clips, and then we also film our sparring so that we can watch and see some of the holes and go back and show, because sometimes you're thinking that you didn't do something and it's like, well, here it is on film, so this is what we got to fix. So I think that it's a huge tool. It's a huge tool, and it's a must for athletes at the highest level. And that's just my opinion, though.
mm. What's your most memorable night as a coach? I mean, so far you've trained a lot of people, and I'm sure there's been some fantastic moments in your coaching career. What are the couple that kind of stand out to you?
That's good. That's good. Um, as much as I like the big stage, um, I I had a youth Muay Thai program for a number of years, and I, before my gym was more of a fight gym, I had a youth fight team, and
Mm,
we were very successful. But I think making that first walk with somebody, and helping them through the rings or through the cage doors, and I've had so many first walks, but seeing the kids win and get their hand raised is
mm,
that's probably what does it for me. I like it just to see that pure joy, and um, knowing that it sets a good example that hard work pays off, because I work the kids pretty hard. So it would probably be, I don't have a set moment, but it would be uh, my top moments would probably be working with the kids, or like having somebody that's their very first fight. Like, that is such a cool experience that you never know if you're going to get fall in love with a sport, if you're going to have one or 100 fights. But I think that first walk, making that first walk with somebody, is always probably um, that's what brings me the most joy.
mm. Interesting.
Yeah.
Um, and the next question I wanted to ask you is, what's the nicest and the toughest fighter you've ever coached?
Mm.
Nice people, but when they're in the cage, they're a whole different beast.
Oh, I think um, I think Razak is probably up there on that list.
Mm,
He is the nicest, most humble dude, and I think if you watch him step in the cage,
Yeah.
every single thing that he does is bad intentions, and he does not
Wow.
play. So, yeah, probably Razak. Razak is a different animal when he steps in there. It's almost like he allows he's very very nice to everybody. And even when they're negative or there's negative energy, I think that he
Mm.
kind of boils that up, and it's kind of like his time to party and let that loose when he gets in there. So that I would say Razak is probably the
Oh,
guy that
oh,
is so
man.
nice, but he's it's somebody you would not want to be locked in there with.
Fantastic. Um, what makes for a great striking coach? Because predominantly that's kind of like your main specialty.
Yep.
What makes for a great striking coach to do the things that you guys get to do and install them, in your fighters?
I think that it goes back to the experience. I started boxing pretty early on, and then I chose to go to the MMA route and fell in love with the Muay Thai and the K1 rule set. So I've kind of experienced everything, and Muay Thai footwork is different than K1. K1 is different than boxing, and
Mm.
MMA is a different animal, and being able to have the ability to switch both stances and understand both stances. I think it really, really just it comes down to experience and time put in. So um, I'm on my way towards building some accolades, but there's a lot. I've watched a lot of great coaches and been able to train alongside a lot of great coaches. In my career, I worked with Coach Trevor Whitman, and he was a coach of the year, and Dwayne Ledwood was coach of the year.
Yeah.
And although I didn't spend the most time just being around the guys that are having a lot of success and taking some plays out of their book has really, really helped me. So I think being experienced is definitely an advantage, but also just hours dedication to your craft.
Mhm.
That's kind of what separates people, and um, understanding, the open stance versus closed stance, the tools that you have in different ranges, and yeah, I just it comes down to time put in,
Mhm.
essentially. I mean, you can't really fake it in this game. So I think experience helps a lot as an athlete, and then holding pads for people that may not be a world champ. It could be a soccer mom, and that could help me learn how to fix somebody recycling their hands and not bringing them back to their face and stuff. So
Right.
just time put in. I don't have nothing I can say. All right, this is the one thing. So
Yeah. I mean, that's fantastic answer you give us right there, and thank you for that. Um, I wanted to get from like a coaching perspective on refereeing and on judging criterias, right? Because some of the judging that we see on TV, sometimes you got head in hands and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, what's going on here? How did they work that out? I mean, what's your perspective from a coaching perspective? Because you guys are the ones sending fighters in there to really put it all on the line and coming out with uh, uh judges results like that. It's mind blowing sometimes.
that is probably the best question, because I have been saying for years that's probably the worst part of this sport is the referees and judges, not as people or being good at their craft. It goes back to me saying that I might be able to see something on the outside that you didn't see in there, and
Mm-hmm.
they can't be on both sides and see everything. I think that it's cool that they're using the replay now, and so they can fix some mistakes and stuff like that. But I think that there's going to have to be some sort of um, sanctioning body, and it should be worldwide with some training. I think that these guys should get paid a lot more, and I think that if you're getting paid more, then you're required to put more time in. I think that would solve the puzzle. But martial arts is such a tight niche group, especially at the top. But
Yeah.
even on the amateur level, you're going to see guys that. Why do you want to be a ref? Well, I trained. Well, I used to train at this gym called Tim's Garage or whatever, and it's like, okay, so then I'm not wanting my guy to fight a guy from Tim's Garage because the official used to train there. So I think that everyone that is passionate about refereeing and judging and stuff like that has some sort of a martial arts background, which means you're either going to have a good experience or bad experience, or you've been around a couple different gyms. And I think that it would be tough not to be biased towards one of my guys if I was a judge, you know, and I had worked with that person in the past. And I think that people can say they can separate that stuff and put it aside, but I think that there needs to be something done that a little bit lengthier of a training that they should go through, and that's the only thing. And unification. There's different states that have different rules. We just had a gal that was competing, Jessica Aguilar. She's a UFC vet, and she was training at the gym, and she was fighting for Risen. She just had a fight. I didn't get to see it, but I think she lost the decision. But we had to work, you know, after our takedowns, we had to be worried about getting kneed on the ground, and you can soccer kick and everything. And I think that's cool that different people are doing things. We were hosting the bare knuckle tryouts this weekend, and at the gym in Denver, and just the rule set of that it's crazy different. So if you're a judge and you're supposed to referee Muay Thai, and you got boxing, and then you're doing the bare knuckle, and now we're going to go to the pride rules, like, I think that we need to narrow things down. Or if there's going to be, let's just say, for instance, the bare knuckle stuff, like, I think that should be separate course, separate judging with, you know, some mandatory minimums for hours as far as studying goes. But I think it just comes down to education and giving the officials more tools. I actually used to referee fights in Michigan, because Michigan wasn't sanctioned back when I was coming up, and so I judged and ref and stuff. And I went through a course. Mark Fennell was a referee. He's a former UFC ref as well. But we had to watch a lot of tape in there. I mean, this was 15 years ago, but I think we had to watch like 6 hours of tape and explain why we thought this person won versus that person. And you know, the tough part gets, you know, where you score somebody who's on top just laying there versus somebody throwing up subs, or, you know, I'm getting dominated in position, but I'm opening up cuts and I'm trying to fight the whole time. Like, there is a lot of gray areas with the criteria, and I think they're always trying to evolve and improve that. But that was a long answer, but I would say just more education for sure, and mandatory.
We love it. We love a long answer, because, you know, it's clearly a topic that's so close to your heart as a coach. So thank you very much for that. As we start to wind down on the clock, because I'm very, very wary of your time. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. Should more fighters spar or not spar? Because we've seen people like Tony Ferguson, Max Holloway. They're all known for not sparring, but most of the fighters still do, especially like hard sparring and that. What's your take on it, in terms of, you know?
I think that once a week is plenty. I think that hard sparring, I think if you need that to feel some type of way, maybe 3 times in a camp. Hard sparring, if you get the right people that understand how to tech spar, I think you can still tech spar and get timing and try your techniques without hurting one another. I'm a big believer in drilling and tech sparring. I mean, the sparring is definitely good for your confidence, but, you know, in MMA, the guard is different if we wear big gloves. So the guys are like, well, we want to put these small puffies on. And then it's like, well, how do you control yourself, you know, with those small puffies? And if you can't, it can lead to, you know, cuts and concussions. And I think that we're going to see a lot of restrictions from gym owners in the future, because I think that the first real generation of people who are full-time mixed martial artists are kind of getting closer to the retirement, and I think we're going to be able to live through those guys and see, you know, how their bodies are holding up, how their brains are holding up, what they wish they wouldn't have done or should have done. I think that we're all different, obviously genetically, but I'm a believer that tech sparring on the weekly basis and drilling on a daily basis. But I'm a one time a week kind of sparring with select partners. I don't think that, and it's not sexist, but I don't think the guys should necessarily have to go with the girls. We have good smaller guys that have good control, but it doesn't make sense for a 155er to be sparring with a heavyweight and stuff. I think that there should be more than one coach in the room, probably for every 5 groups of sparring, to make sure that everyone is taking care of each other. Nowadays with the calf kicks and different things, I have guys come into the gym all the time, and if you don't tell them the rules, they will throw knees without knee pads and do all kinds of crazy shit. So I think that if you have a good culture, tech sparring is the only way to go. So.
Fantastic. You just mentioned tech sparring right there. Might as well go with that. What's your favorite technique to teach and why?
That's a great question. My favorite technique as an athlete was explosive flying knees, bicycle knees, jump knees, and not everyone can do that, and you have to really know how to set things up, because it's definitely not advisable to leave the ground on any technique. I mean, you jump with a Superman. If you get hit doing any one of these spectacular techniques, it's going to look bad on you, right? But when you do land something cool, like a flying knee or something like that, or a Superman elbow, it's a great feeling. But it's also it's the game of risk versus reward. So I like to teach. I think my favorite aspect of teaching is not just one strike. It is the salesmanship and how to build off your success, not just saying, all right, this is how you do it. I want you to know why to do it, when to do it, and I'm just a small detail coach about. I think that's kind of the thing that has led to a little bit of my success is the very, very small details, because you can only throw punches and kicks so many different ways, but it's about how you set them up, where you're aiming to move the hands for your next strike. And so I think I like to it wouldn't be a technique, it would be how to sell the shots and fake into the next shot or build off your success. But flying knees were always my jam, so I love showing those if people are explosive enough to do it. So
well, you must have been a favorite of you must have loved that one from Jorge to Ben Askren. That's flying kick from hell.
That was sweet. Yeah, that's my stuff right
that
there.
that was on the money. It was a toe curl and everything. It had the
gangster. It was really nice. I couldn't believe it. I watched it live in Florida. Yeah.
Wow. Last question here, because we're just rounding up on time here. For someone that's just starting out in a gym, and want to learn MMA, what do you think they should go to first? Boxing, BJJ, kickboxing, wrestling? I mean, from a coaching perspective, what do you think someone like that should do?
So I think that if you had no experience and you were 18, I mean, I think that as a kid you should get in, whether it's BJJ or wrestling for sure. A lot of parents don't want their kids into the striking sports because they don't want to see the impact and everything.
Right.
Even so, but if you're 18 years old, I think that with no experience and you want to get into it, I think that it wouldn't matter. I think that the thing that I'm doing now with my students that are starting day one, that I've been having success in the last 5 years, is making sure that we're getting equal reps in both stances. So you're not orthodox, you're not southpaw. So I think that whatever you do, making sure that you're not just boxing from ortho or southpaw, mixing the two. If you're wrestling, a lot of wrestlers fight southpaw and they're like, well, my power hand's up front, but I can shoot off this. You have to be versatile. I mean, you look at the guys at the top. I mean, Izzy's a buddy of mine, but I've been in love with his style from the Glory kickboxing days when we used to compete together. And what sets him apart? Yes, he has great timing. He's a ridiculous athlete, but he can attack you from high-low from either stance with every single weapon. They're equal ortho to southpaw, which allows you to set twice as many traps. So I wouldn't necessarily say that wrestling, BJJ. I think whatever you do, I would just say that make sure that you're like everyone in boxing is like, you need to have a good foundation before you switch. And I'm having a lot of success with my newer fighters that started just getting equal reps ortho to southpaw. So I started wrestling. I think wrestling is still probably the toughest part of the sport, and you have to be able to defend takedowns. And as far as the striking goes, I like the K1 style, but in K1 we can't use elbows, and elbows are such a great weapon for mixed martial arts that you have to do the Muay Thai route. So I would say, yeah, Muay Thai and wrestling.
Got you. Got you. Thank you very much, Coach. On that bombshell, thank you very much to everybody that's watched us. You've been fantastic. And this has been another exclusive with the brilliant coach, Coach Justin Houghton, J-Hop. Thank you very much for popping by, man.
Appreciate y'all. Thank you so much,
man. And hopefully down the line we can give you a shout, and you can grace us with your presence again on the show.
Let's start networking a little bit. I would love that.
Yeah, man, fantastic. Thank you very much. Right. And we're gonna talk soon.
Sounds good, bro.
Hey guys, this is John Anik from the UFC. You're watching the Fight Week Show. Please subscribe, not now, but right now. Subscribe to the Fight Week Show. We'll see you guys on the road soon.